Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out to my producer today, Moxie. Moxie, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Erica. How are you?
I'm doing well. It was a beautiful weekend in Wisconsin. We almost hit 80 degrees yesterday, which is wonderful. It brings so much joy and just a healthy feeling to your life when you have that. So I'm doing great.
Awesome. I'm jealous of that sun.
I know. I'm hoping it continues, but sometimes we're in that false winter stage in Wisconsin. But I'm hoping that spring's actually here and we continue towards the summer. So today's episode, listeners, is titled "Practical Tools for a Healthy and Abundant Life." And there's a saying by Frederick Buchner that is, "Here is the world. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Don't be afraid." And I feel like when we are healthy and abundant in our life, we don't have to be afraid because terrible things and beautiful things happen each and every day. What we make of those things is really on us. So do we have enough? And so if you look at the definition of enough from a purely literal standpoint, enough is defined as the adequate for the want or need, sufficient for the purpose or to satisfy desire. What if we lived as if there was enough, as our life was full of abundance and was already enough? That is what my guest, Sherry Anshara, and I will discuss today and give you tools to live a healthy and abundant life. But first, a little bit about my guest. Sherry Anshara is an international best-selling author, professional speaker, former radio host of Conscious Healing, host of the podcast The Quantum Truth, host of the Medical Intuitive channel on Roku TV, and contributing writer to national and international publications on the subject of the Anshara method of accelerated healing in abundance and overall wellness. The Anshara AHA method was developed through her experience and expertise as a medical intuitive and success coach as the foundation of her groundbreaking work with cellular memory. She used this method first to heal her broken back, neck, smashed head, and out-of-place brain, and then to assist thousands of people worldwide to heal their bodies and their lives of illness, disease, and trauma. That is a major accomplishment. As Sherry Anshara has developed the Anshara AHA method through her 31 years of practice and proof, and is now changing the world by teaching facilitators and practitioners to accelerate the impact of healing and wholeness at the Anshara Institute of Accelerated Healing. I don't know what to say after that, but thank you so much for being on the show today with us, Sherry.
Well, thank you so much, Erica, for having me on the show. I'm delighted. When you talk about the idea of abundance, and sometimes what we do without doing anything wrong, it's not right or wrong, but what isn't correct is that we get abundance of trauma, drama, illness, and the idea of abundance of loss. And so that's why I like to assist people to look at the foundation of, is it a belief system, BS, or is it believing in themselves, which is a different resonance?
Yes, and I love that. Definitely, that's a good Sherryism, is a BS, because sometimes we bring it on ourselves, right?
Yes, we do. And it's not that we did anything wrong. We just didn't realize what the heck was going on.
Yeah. So Sherry, during today's episode, we're talking about 3 practical tools for a healthy and abundant life. So during this first segment, we're going to focus on something called non-emotional observer, or NEO, N-E-O. What is it and why is it important?
The reason is when, and my clients, even my friends, myself, when we implement this tool, it is spectacular. NEO, non-emotional observer. Then we get the facts. If we get really emotional, we actually lower our resonance in our body. That actually lowers our immune system. And when we're emotional, we're only using half our brain. We're only using the left brain. And our creative brain, which is the right brain, gets disconnected. So NEO, when you are not emotional, you're able to detach. When we're emotional, we get disconnected, and then something happens again outside of us, and then we get triggered and we're back there because our left computer brain doesn't know what time it is. And that's how we recreate. Looks different, but it's actually the same because of the emotionality of it.
So what are some tips for our listeners that they can implement, right? Implement this, because sometimes it's really hard because we are human beings, right? We are feeling. And sometimes then the knee-jerk reaction is to feel, right? I when your child's going to touch something hot on the stove and you yell, well, you're not angry, but that sounds like you're angry, as opposed to taking a deep breath and explaining, right? So how do we not become that emotional being so that we can really be that non-emotional observer?
Okay, well, there's a significant difference between emotions and feelings. Feeling is your real brain, your heart. When you feel something, you are grounded and centered in self. It's not selfish. Centered in self is when you're balanced. When you're emotional, in all the years that I've been doing this, I discovered that emotions, and by the way, there's a fallacy here, not judging it, there is absolutely zero intelligence in emotions. Emotions are the core of every illness, disease, and dysfunction. So when we feel something, we're actually using our intuition. And our intuition is our natural innate ability to discern. Is it correct for me or not correct? But emotions are right and wrong, good and bad, my way or the highway, my way is better than your way. And that brings in self-judgment. And so emotionality is really the foundation of all the trauma dramas, that someone did that. And without judging, we create victimization. But the fact is, when you're NEO, you can't victimize yourself or attract victimizers. You're looking for the facts.
Yes. And that's really important. I mean, I think sometimes we were talking, I think during the last episode with one of my guests about how people read tone into things, right? And it's like, how can you read a tone? It's a text, it's an email. That person could have just been in a hurry. You have to take that, what your expectation is, and what are the facts? What does it say? Not what do you think it says?
Exactly.
What does it say?
Exactly. And when we get emotionally charged, then we make up a story, and we're supposed to tell stories. So my clients get out of telling stories and they stick to the facts. And then they say, oh my God, how did I get tripped up in that? Because what happens when we get emotional, it triggers what I teach: profiles, behaviors, and roles. So when we don't like, so I tell this to everybody. If I meet someone and I don't care for them, I'm so grateful. So I ask myself, what profile am I attaching to that person from the past that doesn't have anything to do with them? So that takes away the judgment, but it takes away the self-judgment when you are feeling. And that's empathetic. But emotions are the trauma dramas and creates us to be wackadoodles.
No, and I like that because too, I always, sometimes when you don't particularly care for someone when you first meet them, it is either attaching something to them, or you're envious or jealous that they're something that you want. Like if somebody, I see this a lot with sometimes women who are, not all women, of course, I don't want to be stereotypical, but who see another woman and they're outgoing or they're promoting themselves and they say, well, why is she so boastful? Well, if she's not going to do it, who's going to do it? Right.
Exactly.
And so is it really that you feel like she's being arrogant or, that sort of thing? Or is it because you wish you were more and now you're deflecting that? And so it's what are you attaching to this person that has nothing to do with them?
Exactly. And that's where Neo comes in, that non-emotional observer. And when you observe, you learn so much. And, that opens up opportunities that maybe that person that you were going to judge emotionally might have some incredible knowledge that you can gain from them. And so that takes all the drama, and it's not blaming. And fear, actually, I have identified that there's only 3 fears on this planet. There's only 3 fears. There's versions, but it's self-judgment, self-lack, and then we self-take it away from ourselves and we miss opportunities. And that's why I love being Neo. And I've learned so much.
And that is a great point, because it is that fear of lacking, right? That you talked about, or that fear of taking away that. And I hope that we all can get to that point, because I think a lot of conflicts can be resolved when we do the non-emotional, right? The non-emotional observing.
Especially if you're an entrepreneur or in business or the corporate world or your personal life, then you are not judging first yourself, which isn't selfish, it's centered in self-balance. And then it's not putting that out there, because the basis is not frequency and vibration. Those are just offsprings of your resonance. What is your resonance? So if you're judging someone else, you're really judging yourself. Now, I'm not talking about a serial killer or a murderer or something, but in everyday life, and, we don't know someone's circumstances or what they've overcome. And I just know through Neo and meeting all sorts of people, what a blessing and what knowledge I have gained.
I love it. Perfect. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about non-emotional listening. But before we go, Sherry, you have a free gift for listeners. Tell us how they can receive and learn more about you and your services.
Well, if they go to my website, SherryAnshara.com, it's SHERRY, Anshara, ANSHARA, SherryAnshara.com, they can download a free 17-page ebook, and it's called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes.
Love it. So thank you. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Sherry Anshara. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so delighted.
It's really great, because I first met Sherry actually through a Zoom call, and then we were both in Arizona the last weekend of April. I think that was Easter weekend, where we both received a International Impact Book Award. Sherry, tell folks what your award-winning book was.
Well, it's called Take Back Your Power, You Becoming You. That's what
I love it.
Yes.
So you can go to her website and learn more all about what she offers. During the last segment, we talked about non-emotional observing, right? And how that can really give us a moment to step back, observe without the emotion, right? And making sure that we are looking at just the facts. And this segment, we'll be getting into the non-emotional listening. So why is that so important? Well, first, what is it for folks? And then why is it so important?
Well, non-emotional listening actually establishes a foundation of a connection. So when we're just hearing to our left computer brain, I call it, or we're just hearing, and haven't you ever had a conversation with someone where you had not really completed a thought or your statement? Just like sometimes we get goofed up with texting. And so we start formulating an answer to someone when we don't have all the information. So when we non-emotionally listen, we're actually connecting, and we're not thinking an answer. We are actually making the connection clearly and deliberately with that person or persons, or maybe it's someone on stage and so you're really gaining. I always love gaining knowledge. And so by being that non-emotional listener, it makes a clearer, make sense conversation.
Yes. And it is. It's that saying that says the most miscommunication is people are not listening to hear the other person, to actually comprehend what they have to say. They're listening enough to provide a response, right? They're starting to think about the response before the other person is even done talking. Well, now you've just missed half of what that individual has just said. So how can you really respond, right? And I think that's so important because we don't practice that active listening, that non-emotional listening.
Yes. And when we are hearing emotionally, we sometimes will come to a conclusion that is not correct. And when we are just hearing it, we are not really taking in the whole circumstance of what that person is sharing. So when we are non-emotionally listening, we are detached. We are not connected to some incident that happened in the past, because the left computer brain doesn't always know what time it is, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And
yes.
So it's such a deeper connection when you're non-emotionally listening to someone, and the whole conversation is completely different. It's clear, it's more interactive, it's that deep connection, and that makes a tremendous difference, especially when you're talking to children.
How does one become better at listening, and how does one become a non-emotional listener? Like, besides practice, right? But what can we do? Besides, of course, don't take our phones, put those phones down, all those other distractions. But what is a way that people can learn how to do this and become better at it to really have that true connection?
By listening to themselves. And so you talked about, there's a difference between reaction and response. When we react, it's act 1, scene 2, act 12, scene 4, whatever the act is. But when we listen to ourselves first, it really expands our resonance. And so you are not locked in to a belief system or a paradigm. And then when someone says to you, no, I didn't mean that. I didn't say that at all. And the truth is they didn't. But when we're only hearing, we are not getting a full Monty of the conversation. And then we start emotionally interpreting something. And when we interpret it, it's a loss. It's a disconnect. And then we react from an experience that might have happened to us in the past. And that person then gets judged, but we're really judging ourselves. So we've got to listen to ourselves.
I think that's important because sometimes we don't, right? I mean, even when it comes to our bodies, we don't listen to ourselves, to our bodies, I always say when you get those, the hairs in the back of your neck and you're like, oh, it's nothing. Listen, that all those things are, they're telling you I like it when people say, I was looking for a signier sign. Well, we sent you all these signs. Why aren't you? I was looking for a signier sign. No.
I know. And that's a fact. And so when we listen from being an observer and we begin to listen, it opens up a whole new perspective Perspectives are the facts, and perceptions, I say, are the receptions and deceptions of our conceptions that turn out to be crazy. So a perception is a reception and deception of our conception. So we're conceiving something not based on fact, but on emotionality. And then we're taking it personal instead of personalizing it. So when we take it personal, we get traumatic, we get, emotional, and we make up a story. But when we are detached and we listen, it opens up a whole different conversation, and the connection to that person, whether it's personal or professional, it's still the same. I mean, I've worked with salespeople or, heads of companies, and they began to listen more deeply, and actually their sales went up, their connections went up, their business went up, because they weren't telling. They were actually listening and sharing.
Think about how much more energy we would all have if we put down all that emotional baggage that we were carrying around, and not only connecting people to, but, from the non-emotional listening perspective, we could just drop all that. You'd feel so much lighter to begin with.
Exactly. And the light is you don't have all those molecules of emotion taking up space in your cells, particles and molecules to the subatomic level. I mean, actually I have pictures of that, clients that, had tests or, whatever it is, and it actually shows up in the cells. And so that's why neo and non-emotional listening is so important. It's not important, but it's importance in that conversation, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And like you said, that gets to your healthy life, right? Because when you let go of that, it's causing less stress, which then, stress can affect the sleep. It can affect your physical health, right? And you have all these different illnesses and disease that could build off of that. So if we can implement these two to start, imagine what will happen.
Yeah, because what happens is we have an affect, an effect, and then an infect. And so we can have an affect and an effect on each other, but the emotionality creates the infect. And so that actually gets disturbing. It lowers our resonance and it lowers our immune system. And that's how we can get sick. So you're right on about the health.
And that's what we all want to do. We wanted that healthy and abundant life.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about wordology. As you can see, Sherry's got a lot of Sherryisms. So, but before we go, you have an event coming up, Sherry.
I do. This Wednesday, I have an event coming up, and it's in Arizona, and it's for the Anshara Institute.org. We are a nonprofit. We just completed filming our first online courses that we're putting together. So what we're doing through the Anshara Institute, again, it's a nonprofit, is to establish a new profession in healthcare, a new career, or for those. And we will be having a beta test pretty soon as we begin to teach this. And this is not a judgment, Erica, in any way, shape, or form. These are facts. But according to the government, that 47% of our healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, therapists, and many of the doctors that are on our board or the people that are working with us, they're all volunteers right now, they have utilized the methodology and they got well, and they've utilized it with their patients or their clients. And so it's called the Gallery Bar in Phoenix on 5535 East High Street. And it's on our website, ansharainstitute.org/social.mixer. or underscore mixer. And so we would like to teach this globally because healing is practical and it doesn't have a language. It's a consciousness inside the body.
So again, that's this Wednesday, the 17th
And
of
that's
April.
of April from 4 to 6 at the Gallery Bar. It's going to be a fun-deraiser. So we're going to have fun and it's going to be a social mixer. And that is our focus. And we're really excited about teaching this new career, new profession, or for someone who would like to do it, to establish this, because this is not a judgment. Actually, two of my own doctors have quit the system. And I feel so sad, but they said they couldn't do it that way anymore. That they had to do something. And so it's burnout, anxiety, depression, addiction, and suicide. And that's the professionals. This is not what I'm saying. It's through the research. And so that's why we're doing the AnsharaInstitute.org, so that we can fill the gap. And so the other thing is, Erica, is not taking on anybody's stuff.
Yes.
Even family
Yes.
members, you can't. So people ask me, how do you have such, like high energy all the time? And I said, because I'm here to assist people. I'm not here to fix them. I'm not here to heal them. I'm just to provide tools, and then it's up to them. So that's why I write books, or, I do 52 original articles a year for my newsletter. It's just to provide information for them so that they know what they can do. That's why Neo and Nell, and as we go into Wordology is Your Biology, will make a difference, because we came here to have a healthy, long life, and we don't have to age.
Absolutely.
And actually,
I think that is important. So if you're in the Phoenix area, check it out on Wednesday. If not, check out Sherry's website so you can learn more about other offerings that she has. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, it's all about that Wordology is Your Biology. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Sherry Anshara. Thank you so much for being on the show.
oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm just having so much fun. And your essence, your presence is extraordinary. And I know I feel it from the things that you've overcome. That is what the feeling is. It's not a thinky, it's not an emotion, but it's a feeling. And there's like an inner strength, you have a deep, deep inner strength.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. It's been a heck of a year. And actually this Thursday is my final chemo treatment, and I shall be ringing the bleep out of that bell. And so I'm very excited. So much to come for 2024 and beyond. So
Yes.
it's great. Thank you so much. So for those listeners who maybe are just tuning in, during the last two segments, we've discussed non-emotional observing and non-emotional listening. And during this segment, we're talking all about wordology. So Sherry, you say wordology is your biology. Those Sherryisms, I'm telling you, what do you mean by this?
Okay, so when I would listen to people utilizing words, they'll say, you know what, I just can't do this. Or, my family doesn't do this. Or someone told me, that I didn't have the capability. And so I love language. When I was younger, I took like 4 years of Latin. I was really looking like, what is the root of something? I've always been searching for the root. Where did this come from? And so listening to people's words made such a difference for me. And that's when I started developing Sherryisms. So one of my favorite Sherryisms, and I say it when I get up in the morning, I kid you not, what I say makes my day, but what I say could make or break somebody else's day. And so that goes back to the Neo and the Nell, the listening. And so when I hear someone say, well, you did that, or they'll say it to somebody, I'm not talking about me, another you did that, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I don't have the resources, or I don't have the wherewithal. But you know what, Erica, that's not the truth. We have this wonderful intuitive ability inside of us, and intuition is our natural ability to discern, instead of right or wrong or good or bad, what's correct. So when I listen to the words that people utilize, or I've heard people say, I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get sick. Or my family has this, so I'm going to get it. This is not judging anybody, but words make a difference in our health. And without our health, all the wealth in the world doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Language.
It is those, it's like, don't throw that stuff out into the universe, right? Unless it's positive, throw that positive stuff out to the universe, but don't throw that negative or have that dooms feeling, because it's those thoughts become things, right? And that's when, oh, it's Monday. It's just going to be one of those weeks, isn't it? Yeah. Guess what? Yes, because that's where you're going with it. Or don't let just one incident make that day horrible, because you can turn that around. And I know sometimes people, when I say, think positively, you can't go in there thinking it's going to be horrible, it's going to be bad, it's going to be that, because that's where it's going to go. And yes, positivity doesn't make everything perfect by any means, but it makes a lot of more things bearable, and you can turn your mood. You can really shed some sunlight on somebody else and that beautiful sunshine that we have. And it's even just opening the door. Or I saw a woman the other night, and she looked beautiful. And I said, you look beautiful. That color is great on you. I didn't know her, but I felt the need to tell her that, because it really did look beautiful. And she just brightened up. And I didn't do it for any praise or anything like that. She just looked beautiful. And she walked back out. She goes, I was having a really bummer of a night, and now my mood has just changed. And I said, well, great. And I thought that was wonderful, because it does. I mean, just like you gave me that beautiful compliment about the strength. And sometimes you don't know what somebody else is going through. And that little extra word of encouragement, just like when you hear it for yourself, you're like, I can do this. Why was I thinking that? Or even when you talk down to yourself or bad about yourself, or think, right, something about yourself, would you talk that way to your child, to your spouse, or to your best friend? And if you wouldn't say it to them, why are you saying it to yourself?
Exactly. Because words can be so powerful, but they also can make us sick. And I thank you for what you said to that lady. I do this all the time. I will see somebody and I will stop and I'll say, gee, you look so pretty today, or God, you got such a great smile. And Erica, this is one of the things I do, and anybody can do this. When I go out, I put these wordology out. Now, I don't say it out loud, but I put out, ask me anything. It's not like I know everything, but just ask me. Do you know I've had the most incredible conversations at the grocery store, at the bank, or anywhere, at a restaurant, and people will just come up and talk to me, or I'll come up and talk to them. And I'm not saying this is my name, here's my card, none of that. Because one person can make a difference in someone's life, who will make a difference in someone else's life, in someone else's life. This is what you're doing with your show. You are interviewing all kinds of different people. I'm so grateful for that, to be here. But you are making that difference through wordology, is your biology, and someone else's. And that's how we gain from each other instead of a loss.
Yes, absolutely. It's that ripple effect, right? I mean, it's just like actions have consequences, and it could be negative, right? If you think about somebody robbed a bank, somebody hurt somebody, it's not just that one person they hurt. It's the family, the society, people are scared, but the positivity can also have that ripple effect. I don't know what commercial it was. I think it was for alcohol, but I just really remember it. It was somebody picked something up for somebody else, and that person turned around and opened the door for somebody else, which somebody else then paid for somebody else's coffee. And it's just this ripple effect of the kindness, the positivity, the have a great day, the pleases, the thank yous that go a long way. And when we can turn that internally and really manifest and actualize those things in people's lives, in our own lives, it's amazing the results that it can have.
It is. It starts a wave. They talk about a wave of energy, and that's what you're really doing, is you're creating a wave that makes a connectedness. And that's why utilizing words that are empowering. So I don't use the words want and need. Now, I'm not wrong in words want and need, but what I use is require, desire, and deserve. So this is a requirement I have. Desire means to sire or to birth what you're creating, and deserve is of service to self, not selfish, because when you're serving yourself, then you have the strength to serve others in whatever way that is. And language is so powerful, but it can be very deflating, especially to children, especially.
Yes. And I feel like sometimes we forget that, right? The words that we choose, the tone that we choose, all those things have an effect on ourselves and on others. So I think the biggest think before you speak, right? And it's true. It's making sure that you don't use those words that are going to negatively impact yourself or others is so important.
Yeah, because words can uplift you. They can, empower you in your creativity, but they can also really take someone down and create them to be sick. One time, one of my friends said to her 2-year-old, "Act your age." And I said, "Excuse me, the 2-year-old is acting her age. How old are you and where are you?" Stop. And my friend said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I said that." What do you mean? That 2-year-old is doing what they're doing. And I said, so if you get frustrated, it's okay, but let's not take it out on somebody. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make, so is it no sense or nonsense? That's why, and because I write these articles, so every week, if they sign up for my newsletter, I write a new Sherryism every week that goes with what I wrote in the article, because I just love words and language. They are so amazing. And
I love that. I love that. And so let's end this segment with saying, everybody together, what I say makes my day, and what I say can make or break someone else's day. If we can remember that every morning and every time we go out, I think that's important. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to finish off today's episode on discussing natural intelligence. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Sherry Anshara. Sherry, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm just thrilled and grateful.
Now tell listeners one last time how they can learn more about you and your services and reach out for any additional information.
Okay, all they have to do is go to sherryanshara.com. It's Sherry, Sherry, Anshara, ANSHARA.com. And please download my free ebook, Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes. And I also offer a free 10-minute, and you would be amazed what you can accomplish in 10 minutes. And also visit our new endeavor to create a new profession and career in healthcare. And that's the Anshara Institute, AnsharaInstitute.org. And it's a nonprofit. And we're going to be doing a beta testing to teach people to do what I've been doing for 31 years. So thanks. And I'll give you my phone number. My office number is 480-609-0874. And would be happy to offer you a 10-minute consultation. You would be amazed, but it's usually always longer than 10 minutes. I just lie when I say it's 10.
Thank you so much, Sherry. So during today's episode, so far, we've talked about non-emotional observing, non-emotional listening, and wordology is your biology. In this final segment, we're going to discuss and talk about natural intelligence, or NI. Sherry, what is natural intelligence and why is it important for this whole process of having a more healthy and abundant life?
Well, natural intelligence, we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and it's wonderful. We're not judging it in any way, shape, or form. It's a tool. But we have the most incredible tool for having a healthy body, for having a healthy life, to be able to create and implement and manifest and now actualize what we're creating each and every moment, each and every moment. So natural intelligence is what I've been talking about for 31 years. It's called cellular memory. And the easy way to explain it, the minute the sperm hits the egg, I'm not kidding you, the nose knows to be a nose cell and the toe knows to be a toe cell. And I'm not making it ridiculous, but it's that simple. Otherwise, we'd have a fingernail at the end of our nose. So our body, even when we have gotten ill, so I have worked with people with cancer and depression and anxiety, even on the verge of suicide, depression, PTSD or PTS, they took the D off, whatever, and it's all emotional. And so within 10 minutes, we can actually, by connecting to your natural intelligence, your cellular memory, you can overcome the cellular memorization of the illness, disease, and dysfunction and get to the origination point of where it started. And when you do that, you start remembering, your body remembers, and it clears up. I have pictures of cells that were taken 12 years ago, and a doctor took them, and I was published in a medical journal because of it. And he said, how did these cells go? I mean, I have pictures of them, but how did these cells go from here to here? And she had no supplements or medication at the time, but we got to the emotional core and her body went to how it's supposed to be. And that is the natural intelligence that I call cellular memory.
That is a lot for listeners to just get.
I know.
But it's, if you think about it, just when things are reshaping, right? It's being molded. And if we get to, like you said, the root, when we look at what is the root, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal, right? What is the root cause evaluation of this, right? What is the remediation plan that you're doing just with your body? What is the underlying issue of this? And how can we mold that back to its original form?
Exactly.
And I think that is sometimes overlooked on many cases.
Yes. Well, when I had that accident in 91 and I actually drowned, I died. It's okay, really. It was a great experience. But the fact is, with these issues that I had in my tissues, the more I connected to them, and yes, the memorization was the accident, was the trauma drama, was the near-death experience. But I said, I'm not going back to the past, but what I'm doing is connecting to the origination point of the intelligence in my body. And it began to heal itself. And I was told, and I can do a little demo for you, about a year and a half ago, I actually tore my rotator cuff because of moving around. And they said, you will never be able to do this without an operation or steroids. And I said, I'm not wronging any of that, but my body has the memory. So little by little by little. And they said, you'll never be able to do this or you won't be able to do that. But every day, so this is one of the things I say to my body, and my clients say it. I speak, my body listens. I speak to all the cells, particles, and molecules in my body to the subatomic level and tell them to remember being perfectly healthy and operating perfectly. It could, I don't want to call it a mantra. I will call it wordology as my biology. And guess what's happened? Little by little, not in an instant, but little by little, my body began to remember. And now it's healed. And they said it wouldn't be healed without steroids or an operation. And that's not a fact. And I'm not judging, don't get an operation if you require one. Utilize whatever tool it is that will support you to heal, whatever that is.
I think that is so important. So we're coming to the end of the show. Any last tips for our listeners that to really get this more healthy and abundant lifestyle? What is one last message you want to leave with them?
Trust your gut. Trust your intuition. Your intuition is your natural intelligence, your gut feeling. Trust it. And then If you're not sure, then get more information, because fear is lack of correct information, not just correct information. And then you can make, in wordology, as your biology, a clear choice instead of an emotional decision. And then you'll say, well, I'm sorry I did that. But when you're making a clear choice, and the wonderful thing about decisions, when they're emotional, we get stuck. But a choice, you can choose to change it. And that's called growth. Isn't that fabulous?
It is fabulous. Thank you again, Sherry, for being on the show today. It was such a pleasure to meet you, and I'm glad that we had this chance to tell listeners all about the Anshara method. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or you want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day. And I look forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.